You're watching Car Babble, I'm Ewan, and this is a 2017 Suzuki Vitara S Boosterjet Allgrip. So if you're looking for a relatively small car that's reliable, but still has a bit of go-anywhere characteristics, a wee bit of off-road capability, but you've also got a fairly tight budget, well, I'm here to tell you everything you need to know about the Suzuki Vitara so you can decide whether or not this should be on your shopping list as a new or a used buy. So if you enjoy my videos, don't forget to like and subscribe, otherwise buckle up, let's get into it. Now, I'm not going to talk too much about the looks of this car because you can see it for yourself, so let me know what you think in the comments. But for me, there's a lot of cars this size on the road that are basically just cars on stilts, hatchbacks jacked up. And yeah, I'll let you decide whether or not you think this is one of them, but for me, this feels more like a baby SUV. It looks like a proper adventurous little car. It's not the Suzuki Jimny, but it really does feel like it's got plenty of ground clearance, and it just feels like it's a really good little car for going in little adventures. So that's the kind of look they're going for, and this is the top S-spec, and it's got a few sporty touches as well. I really like the look of this car. Let me know what you think. Now let's look in the boot of the Vitara, and it is a manual tailgate even in the top spec. What I do like though is there's a little button here for keyless entry. You've got it on the door as well, so if you've got the key in your pocket and the boot's locked, you can literally press that and it will unlock and open. But it's quite a heavy boot, so older people, that could be an issue. But inside, it's kind of roughly the same size of most hatchbacks, 375 litres with the seats up, 710 with the seats down, and they go manually down from the sides, and when they're down, yeah, it's a reasonably sized load bay, but it's 60-40 split fold and not 40-20-40, so that's not the most practical solution, but it's a small car, so I'll forgive it. You've got a couple of recesses at the sides, and you've got tie-down points all the way around, which is great. But what I do love is you've got underfloor storage, and it's quite a big bit of underfloor storage. You take this out, you've got a much deeper boot, but you can also get the parcel shelf in there, which is a great solution that a lot of cars forget. And then underneath here, you've got room for a spare tyre, which this car doesn't have, and a tyre repair kit and all that stuff there instead. But yeah, this boot for most small families will probably do. Now let's talk engine specs, because this is the 2017, so it's the pre-facelift which happened in 2019, and back then you could get a 1.6 turbocharged diesel, and you could get a 1.6 naturally aspirated petrol, and you could get a 1.4 turbo petrol with four-wheel drive only, which is the Boosterjet, and that's this one. You can also get a manual and an automatic 6-speed torque converter gearbox. So yes, 1.4 turbo we're driving today, so I'm looking forward to telling you more about the driving experience. After the facelift in 2019, they brought in a 1 litre turbocharged petrol, and they dropped the diesel, and they also offered a two-wheel drive in the 1.4 turbo. So that's interesting. So back seat of the Vitara, and well, the good stuff, let's go with that first. Seats in my driving position, I'm 5'9", and I've got loads of knee room, it's really pretty good. And toe room's amazing, which really helps you stretch out, and that makes a big difference. And headroom's pretty good as well, so people up to 6 foot will be absolutely fine back here. 2 people up to 6 foot. If it was 3, yeah, not really wide enough this car. But 3 kids back here over long journeys would probably be all right. The outer 2 seats are soft and squidgy. The middle one is a little fake leather, but it's not higher up, so you could kind of get everybody sitting at the same height across from each other, and it's a really low transmission tunnel too. So yeah, I think that could actually work. You've got this seat belt coming over the middle. Don't really like that solution for the middle passenger, and if you put the seats down, that's a pain in the neck. But yeah, I generally feel like space back here is pretty good, and they seem to use the space well. What's not so good is the cubbies. So there's no center armrest, so there's no bottle holders in there or anything like that. And then the door bins are just basically for bottles and nothing else. They're very plasticky, so things will rattle about in there if it's not bottles. But yeah, there's no proper sort of door bins. And then you've got this little cubby bit in the middle here at the bottom, which is also very plasticky. And then you've got a pocket on the back of the passenger seat, but not on the driver's seat. Don't know why they did that. The windows don't go all the way down, which could be annoying for kids, but they're still quite low down, so you get a good view out. Overall though, I think it's a pretty good back seat. So we're up front in the Vitara, and I think it's reasonably nice in here. I like the little red accents around the place. I think it really gives it quite a nice sporty look. But yeah, it's showing its age a bit. It's a 2017 car. The infotainment screen is pretty small, and we'll come back to that. But yeah, quality-wise, there's a lot of plastic-ness around here. It's very hard plastics on the door. That's quite soft for your elbow actually, but there's no center rest here for your elbow at all. But yeah, door close. Sounds quite good from inside the car. but from the outside it sounds really quite tinny, so not a great sign of quality. But indicator stalks are quite well damped, so are the buttons on the steering wheel. The driving position's reasonably good, steering wheel feels alright in the hands, and the seats are comfy enough. I don't think they're much of an issue, they're not amazing either, but manual adjustment and no lumbar support across the range, and that sucks. Lumbar support should always be available, especially at the top end of the range, and it's not. So that's not great, but overall, I think quality is acceptable. Cubbies, on the other hand, isn't amazing. I wouldn't say there's anywhere really obvious to put a mobile phone or a modern sized mobile phone at the front here. And you've got a USB port and a 12 volt there, so you could probably plug your phone in there, but there's not really a very decent space there for it. No center armrest, so that means you've not got like a big storage bin in the middle, but you've got a couple of these sort of like cup holdery things that really will only fit a small coffee cup, and there's no teeth on them. So depending on the size of it, that might not even work. And you've got a little tray at the back here, you can maybe put your keys there or something. And then the door bins, they're a decent size. You've got a big bottle in there, might rattle about a wee bit actually, but they're pretty big. No felt lining or anything like that, so things will rattle about, but they're a decent size. And the glove box it's an alright size, to be honest. No sunglasses holder, so overall Cubbies is But this center console is pretty old school really. You've got a manual handbrake for stars, which I feel like it's kind of had its day, but we'll forgive it being a 6-year-old car. And then you've got a gearbox, but this one's the automatic. You can't get a manual obviously, and yeah, that's fine. I really like the motion of pulling it back and forward to go, but I'm used to in an automatic gearbox pulling back all the way to go into drive and off you go. Not in this car. They've got the manual mode at the back there, so when you pull it right back, you're not going into automatic drive mode, you're going to manual mode, where you would then use your gear shift paddles, which it's got, interestingly enough. But I don't know what they were thinking there. Make manual like a shift to the side or another button or something. Why have they put that at the back option? So you're always going to go, if you just pull it back, you're going to go into manual mode, which is probably not the mode you're going to want most of the time. You're going to want D for drive automatic. Put that at the back and put manual somewhere else. And the owner of the car says that's really annoying. She's always got to check which gear she's in on her LCD screen in her cockpit. I'm like, that is really annoying, and already I found that annoying. So that is probably the most annoying thing about this car. But yeah, it's a really nice mechanical gearbox to use like that. And this whole center console is just pretty functional other than that. And you've got your physical buttons for your AC controls, which is old school, and it looks like a Casio watch. But other than that, yeah, it's simple. But this infotainment system, it's old, it's really old, and yeah, it just looks so dated now. It's not like a BMW system that even 8 years ago was still a decent system. This is really old school. The graphics are not good. It's not a swipey system, it's just like there's 4 big icons on the screen. You press one for radio or for nav or phone, and you've got smartphone mirroring, so you've got Apple CarPlay and Android Auto wired, so that's good. But yeah, it's a very clunky, laggy system. Even the volume button's like a tappy, up and down, very distracting. And yeah, I just think this system's just really, really old. The graphics for the rear view camera are really not the best either. It's just quite a pixely looking image. And so overall, I would say that this system is just, yeah, massively dated and a bit distracting to use on the move. Your digital cockpit, well, I say digital cockpit, it's a little LCD screen in the middle there, and yeah, you'll get your basic functional information, and then you've got your 2 analog dials, which look quite nice and racy with this red accents around the outside. But overall, yeah, technology in this car isn't a strong point. Now, I don't want to be one of these car reviewers that reels off the spec sheet. You can get that information online, no bother, but I'll leave some information in the description about that so you can compare and see what you're getting going through the range. However, this being the S, it's kind of the top spec. You get the SZ5 as well, and that's really well spec, but this has got these sporty touches on it as well. So this one's got a few things that are quite good. It doesn't have the pan roof that you can actually get in the spec as an option, but this one's got Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, which is the main thing that you can then override this really old school system with, and that's good. So that'll keep your car feeling slightly modern. And also it's got adaptive cruise control, which is fantastic. So if you do a lot of motorway journeys, that is a really useful thing to have, and I really wish more cars had it. But yeah, in the top specs, you get adaptive cruise. So I hope it works really well. I don't have a lot of time with this car, so I might not get to do a really good test of that, but being a Japanese car, I'm guessing it probably will work pretty well. But that is really good that it's got that. So competitors for this car, there's quite a lot of them, and a lot of car makers now do like hatchbacks on stilts to basically compete in that market, but you've got loads. You've got the Skoda Karoq, the Honda HR-V, the Volkswagen T-roc, the Peugeot 2008, the Skoda Yeti if you're going really old school, the Kia Soul, loads of them out there. I could go on and on and on. But how does it stack up against its rivals? Well, I certainly think this one feels more like, in my opinion, more like an off-roader type small car than a lot of those as cars on stilts. But certainly others will do things like technology a lot better and practicality a bit better as well, like the Kuro, for example. But pricing wise, this car seems to hold its value quite well as a used buy. This car, under 50,000 the clock, about a 17 plate. Thereabouts, you're going to be anywhere from 14 to 16 grand, which is, you know, for the amount of car you've got, I would say is not too bad, but still quite expensive. But then that's just because car prices are ridiculous just now. If you want a brand new one, you're going to be between 25 and 28 grand. And I think that's still reasonably good value. So yeah, I can't really make a case for either or, to be honest. I think, yeah, cars are just ridiculously expensive regardless. But I think as a new buy, this car probably is pretty good value. But as a used buy as well, I'm encouraged by its resale value. So I would say that if you had this over time, it might not depreciate all that much. But if you were going to buy one new, bit of a disappointing warranty. It's only 3 years and 60,000 miles, which really, considering that Suzuki's in bed with Toyota and it's a Japanese car, you'd think they might have a bit more confidence in their reliability. And it's actually a very reliable car, so that maybe makes a case for it as a used buy, because you're not going to have a lot to worry about. It does score really well in reliability rankings, so I'm surprised their warranty isn't better. But yeah, otherwise, I don't think there's many things you're going to have to worry about with this car. It's got a torque converter gearbox, so I wouldn't be worried about that if you're buying the automatic. It feels pretty well built and sturdy, and it feels quite a rugged car. No concerns really about any of that stuff. And it's also quite a safe car, scored 5 stars in the Euro NCAP safety ratings, but most cars do these days, otherwise they're not credible. But overall, not really gonna have to worry too much about anything like that. So we're out on the road in the Vitara, and let's talk performance of this 1.4 turbo. So it has 138 brake horsepower and 221 Newton meters of torque, which is not groundbreaking, but it does 0 to 60 in 9.5 seconds. And I always think that any car that does 0 to 60 in under 10 seconds is probably quick enough to be able to comfortably get past somebody when you need to. And I definitely think this car, when you put your foot down, absolutely heaps of lag from the gearbox, and then it revs out really hard, and then you're really going. And I do think it's got enough performance there. It's not going to blow your socks off, but it's really not too bad. Handling wise, coming around that bend here, it stays pretty flat in the corners, so it's pretty good in that regard. Suspension tune's not too bad either. Yeah, I think it's absorbing the bumps okay. What I do think is a bit of a problem though is the steering, and there's two sides to this, because on a country road it's really bad, it's lifeless, and yeah, you just don't want to be cornering particularly fast in this thing because it's so unresponsive. But around town it's extremely light, and therefore that could have its benefits as well. So if you're an older person, or, you know, okay, I don't want to be ageist, but somebody, you know, that really doesn't do a lot of spirited driving and wants things to be nice and easy, that might not be too bad. So I'm going to launch this bad boy for you and see how quick it really is. That's 60. I'm going to say, without having specialist timing gear, that was 0 to 60 in less than 9.5 seconds actually. That was really not too bad at all. Visibility is excellent, really can see all the way around the car, big wing mirrors as well, so all good there. And refinement, not so much. I wouldn't expect it to be like an S-Class in here, but it really is quite loud. So if you were going at motorway speeds and you were trying to have a conversation, you'd probably have a hoarse voice by the end of it. This gearbox though really meshes the gears together well, barring the lag when you really put your foot down. I find the gearbox just gets on with its business pretty well, so I've got no complaints about that at all actually. Suspension's okay as well. I don't think it's the softest in the world, but there's a trade-off there obviously. It stays flat in the corners, and so yeah, you can't have your cake and eat it too much. I just find they've got the balance on that reasonably good. I'm not bouncing about all over the place, don't feel like I'm getting kicked up the arse. It's just reasonably good. It's a wee bit fidgety at points, but overall acceptable. I just really find this car quite pleasant to be in, to be honest, and I've got a nice high riding position. I feel like I'm in a proper SUV in this thing. It's just fairly competent in most areas, and the performance is definitely ample. Just barring the steering, I can't really think of any major flaws it's actually got. Now it says you should get up to 51 miles per gallon out of this thing officially, whatever. I don't really care about talking about those things because they never mean anything. In the real world, this thing is averaging over a long period of time 39 miles per gallon, which is definitely acceptable for the type of car this is and the performance you've actually got. But these seats, you know, I don't really feel like it's like I'm driving a Volvo and I just eventually think I don't want to get out of my car, they're so comfy, you know. It's not like that. They're firm and they're okay. They're just okay, but over long journeys, I think you might eventually be like, okay, I'm ready for a stretch. I do like this analog clock in the middle. That's very Lexus or Mercedes. I really quite like that, although it doesn't have a fancy badge at the top of it, so it's probably not really that expensive, but it looks kind of cool. So the owner of this car is a mid-70s lady, and she loves it. And I think, particularly for that sort of demographic, this really is a great car because she's got a dog and the dog fits fine in the boot, and it's big enough to cart a couple of grandchildren about, you know, and it's got all-wheel drive, so that in the winter time that's a little bit of extra peace of mind. And she's got high riding position and it's reliable and she can overtake people with confidence. I just think for that demographic, this car really makes a lot of sense. But that's not to say that younger people and families and stuff really couldn't get something out of it as well. So final thoughts on the Vitara. I really like it, I have to say. It's just a funky little car that's got character and it feels like you go on really good little adventures with this thing, and it just doesn't feel to me like a car on stilts. It feels like a baby SUV, and it's for going on holidays full of stuff and going off the beaten track, and I just think it's just kind of cool. And yeah, it's made some compromises and it's not got the best technology and the steering's rubbish, but it is just quite a cool little car and it does a lot of things pretty well. And yeah, I think it'll age well over time. It's reliable. So those are my thoughts. I would love to know yours, so please do leave me a comment below. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to give it a like and consider subscribing because there's loads more coming up the channel. Thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next one.